A paper crown on his head, a slice of cake in his hand, and poison on his tongue. That's how my son broke my heart on his 18th birthday. He stood in front of his friends, chest puffed up, the kind of cheap bravado only a teenager could have. My stepmom bought me a car, he declared, raising his voice so the entire backyard could hear. My real mom never did anything for me. Some of the guests laughed awkwardly. Others went dead silent. I froze. The smile I'd been practicing all morning still stretched across my face, but it felt like my skin was splitting open. They call me Renee, the woman who gave him life, who picked up his pieces, who loved him through every broken bone and bad grade. But at that moment, I was nothing more than a ghost. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch. I just left. No one followed me as I walked through the yard, past the plastic streamers and the cheap balloons, past the tables covered with soda cups and half-eaten hot dogs. The sun was warm on my face, but I felt cold all the way through. I drove home in silence, replaying his words over and over like a hammer to the chest. By morning, something in me had turned to steel. I walked to the bank and moved every last cent of his college fund, money I had saved through tears and overtime shifts, into a private account he couldn't touch. Then I called the dealership, the one where I had co-signed the car he was bragging about. It took 15 minutes for them to schedule a repossession. 15 minutes to pull the rug out from under his shiny, self-satisfied grin. By lunchtime, my phone started buzzing. Dad. Aunt Tessa. His father. Even his stepmom. Furious and shrill. I let every call ring out. No one had bothered to defend me yesterday. Now they all wanted an explanation? I owed them nothing. My son thought I would sit quietly and swallow his public humiliation. He thought wrong. And that's when I heard him whisper my name from behind the door. His voice sounded raw, cracked open, not like the cocky boy from yesterday. I turned from the kitchen sink where I'd been scrubbing away leftover party icing that had somehow ended up on my sleeve. There he stood, my son, his hair a mess, eyes puffy from crying, hands trembling. "What did you do?" he demanded, somewhere between panic and rage. I kept my tone even, icy. I took back what was mine. His face twisted. "You emptied my college fund? My money? And the car?" I cut him off, refusing to let my voice shake. "Whose name was on the car loan, huh? Do you think your stepmother's credit carried that?" "That was me, Ethan. I co-signed. So I unsigned." His mouth opened, but no words came out. "You humiliated me." I went on, my voice so calm it scared even me. "You made me look like trash in front of a yard full of people I fed, people who came because I invited them. And then you thought I'd just smile and keep paying for your dreams." He shook his head, tears spilling now, ugly and raw. "I didn't mean it like that," he croaked. I let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, you meant it exactly like that. And you were proud to say it." Ethan slammed a hand on the table. "Mom, please. College starts in 2 months. I can't lose that money." I leaned forward until our faces were inches apart. "Then maybe next time you open your mouth, you'll remember who actually sacrificed for you." His shoulders slumped, all that birthday swagger gone, replaced by a lost, scared boy. "Where am I supposed to go?" he whispered. I felt something twist in my heart, but I didn't let it show. "I don't know," I told him honestly. "Figure it out." He looked at me like I'd torn out the floor beneath his feet. "Mom, please." I turned away, refusing to cry where he could see it. "You made your choice." The front door creaked open behind him, his father's angry voice filtering through. "What the hell happened here, Renee?" I wiped my hands on a towel, jaw set. "Perfect timing," I muttered. And that's when I heard him whisper my name from behind the door. His father's voice scraped down my spine, full of that same self-righteous thunder I'd come to expect. He barged through the doorway, his face red, fists balled up, carrying all the rage of a man who never took responsibility but loved to assign blame. He barely glanced at Ethan, who was still shaking by the table. "What did you do?" he spat at me, like I'd burned the whole house down. I crossed my arms, steady. "I took back my money and canceled the car. Simple." He gaped, sputtering. You can't just ruin his future like that. I almost laughed. Ruin it? You mean the future I worked 3 jobs to build, while you played happy family with your new wife? His jaw twitched. That money was for Ethan. I stepped forward, calm but cold enough to freeze steel. It was mine to save, mine to plan, and mine to take away. Ethan buried his face in his hands, sobbing. I should have felt something, motherly instinct, guilt, anything, but all I could feel was the dull ache of betrayal. Do you have any idea what you've done? His father growled. I met his glare, without blinking.
Yeah.
I finally made him learn there are consequences. He threw up his hands. You're bitter, Renee. Bitter and spiteful. My voice dropped, quiet but deadly. No, I'm awake. For 18 years I protected him, loved him, covered for you. And the one time I needed him to remember that, he spit on it. Silence. A thick, guilty silence. Ethan peeked through tear-soaked fingers.
Mom, please.
I'll say sorry. I'll stand up for you. Just put it back. Put it all back. Something inside me cracked then. The way he said sorry, as if that word was a magic wand to erase every wound. Not this time, I whispered. I need you to live with this. To understand how it feels when the person you count on turns their back. His father slammed the wall with a fist, making a family photo rattle. You're heartless. I lifted my chin, letting every ounce of pain steady me. No, I said, voice like glass. I'm done being heartbroken. The wind outside rattled the window as if the house itself was holding its breath. And that's when I heard him whisper my name from behind the door. This time it was Ethan again, voice cracking like glass as he stepped toward me, desperate. His face was blotchy, streaked with tears, the birthday crown still shoved into his hoodie pocket like a cruel joke. Mom, he stammered, reaching for my arm. I didn't mean it.
I swear.
You're my mom. Please don't do this. I held his gaze, trying to find that little boy I once rocked to sleep. But the grown boy in front of me, the one who had let the world believe I was worthless, felt like a stranger. Ethan, I breathed out, steady and firm. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. You watched me stand there like a fool, then twisted the knife. His voice dropped to a whimper. It was just a joke. I let out a bitter laugh. That wasn't a joke. That was a confession. That was you showing off, proving to your little audience that I didn't measure up. He shook his head, words tumbling out. I didn't know it would hurt you. I didn't think. That's the problem. I snapped, letting the burn show. You never think. You just take. His father tried to cut in, stepping closer. Renee, he's a kid. Don't throw his whole life away. I whirled on him, my voice razor sharp. A kid? He's 18. A man when he wants to brag, but a child when it's time to be held accountable. He opened his mouth, then shut it again, cornered by the truth. I turned back to Ethan, softer, but not forgiving. I'm not erasing you from my heart, but I am erasing the bank account, because I'm done letting you forget where you came from. He wiped his face with a sleeve. Mom, please, I need college. I need that car. You need respect, I told him, voice ironclad. And you don't get respect by standing on someone's bones. He broke then, sinking to the kitchen floor, sobs tearing through him. For a second I wanted to kneel with him, to hold him, but I stayed rooted, because he had to feel this. The world outside kept spinning, a car horn, a neighbor's dog barking, while our entire family story crumbled. And that's when I heard him whisper my name from behind the door. The voice belonged to his stepmother, suddenly appearing in the doorway like a villain in a cheap soap opera, purse slung over her shoulder, keys jingling in her fist. Her face was pinched, brittle, so smug it made my stomach turn. Really? She spat, crossing the threshold. You'd sabotage your own son because of one stupid sentence. I folded my arms, refusing to shrink. Sabotage? You mean taking back what I earned? She scoffed, dramatic as always. He's a teenager, Renee. They say things. They mouth off. You're the grown-up here. Act like it. I stepped forward, eyes locked on hers. I did act like the grown-up. I paid for his future. I put food in his mouth. I kept his lights on. I showed up, even when no one else did. And then I watched him throw it all in my face. She took a step closer, lips curling. You're jealous, she sneered. Jealous that he sees me as a hero. That laugh that came out of me was so raw, I hardly recognized it. Hero? You signed a dealership check and called yourself Mother of the Year. I gave him life. And you'd have him forget that. Her smile cracked, just for a second. He needs that car, she insisted, panic leaking through her fake confidence. I matched her glare with steady calm. He doesn't need a car. He needs to understand what it feels like to build something instead of expecting someone to hand it over. She looked back at Ethan, who was still on the floor, wiping snot and tears off his face, completely shattered. You've broken him, she accused. No, I said, voice ringing like a bell. I'm fixing him. Silence. It was so quiet I could hear the clock tick behind me. Then Ethan's father let out a slow, exhausted sigh. She's right, he said finally, shoulders slumping. He had it coming. His wife shot him a death glare. You spineless. But he cut her off with a weary hand. You think I forgot who paid his tuition every semester? Who sat up with him when he had pneumonia? I didn't. Neither should he. Ethan looked at me with the shattered eyes of a boy learning the world wasn't always soft. Mom, please? I felt something break inside me, but I held firm. Grow from this, I whispered. That's the only chance you have. And that's when I heard him whisper my name from behind the door. This time it was Aunt Lydia, storming through the kitchen with the scent of her cheap perfume and that self-appointed family mediator face. She must have driven over the second gossip hit the group chat. She looked from Ethan to me, horror twisting her mouth. What have you done? I braced myself. I protected what was mine, I said evenly. Lydia put her hands on her hips, dramatic as always. You ruined everything, Renee. His plans, his dreams. Do you know what that looks like to people? I laughed, bitter and raw. Yeah, I do. It looks honest. For once. She stepped closer, lowering her voice like a conspirator. He was humiliated enough. You didn't have to go this far. My voice dropped to a cold whisper. Humiliated? He humiliated me. In front of neighbors, cousins, his friends, people who know how I struggled for him. And you want me to just swallow that? Lydia's eyes darted to Ethan, still crumpled on the floor, then back at me. He's a kid. I shook my head.
No.
He's a young man who thinks respect is optional. I can't allow that. The stepmother tried to cut in again. Maybe if you just... I cut her off, sharp enough to draw blood. You wrote one check. You think that buys you a pedestal? I built that college fund with every overnight shift, every skipped vacation, every dinner I scraped together. The room seemed to shrink, the walls leaning in to listen. Aunt Lydia let out a frustrated sigh. You're going to regret this. I lifted my chin, resolute.
No.
He's going to regret what he said. Dad, silent until now, standing in the corner like a ghost, finally cleared his throat. Renee, are you sure about this? My voice barely wavered.
Yes.
If I don't stand up now, he'll never learn. I turned back to Ethan, trying to memorize his face. This moment where he realized his choices came with a price. Mom, he sobbed, voice breaking. I can't fix this. I softened for just a second, letting him see my humanity. Not today, I told him. But maybe someday. The whole house seemed to exhale in that pause, like the truth had finally settled into the cracks. And that's when I heard him whisper my name from behind the door. It was my mother's voice this time, sharp as a knife, cutting through the tension as she stepped into the kitchen, leaning heavily on her cane. Her eyes, usually so warm, were cold now, measuring me like a stranger. I raised you better than this, she hissed, her voice trembling with disappointment. I swallowed, fighting the lump in my throat. Did you? I asked quietly. Because you raised me to never speak up, to stay quiet while people took and took. Well, I'm done. She shook her head in disbelief. You'd let him lose his future over pride? I bit back tears, refusing to blink. It's not about pride. It's about respect. About showing him that you don't spit on the hands that feed you and expect them to keep feeding you. She stepped closer, eyes searching mine. I taught you to forgive. I nodded.
Yeah, you did.
And I did forgive, over and over, until it bled me dry. Ethan lifted his head, his voice small and broken. Grandma. She emptied my account. The car's gone. Everything. She put a wrinkled hand on his shoulder, trying to soothe him. Oh, honey, we'll fix this, she cooed, shooting me a glare like hot iron. I shook my head.
No.
You won't. Her mouth dropped open. What do you mean? I stood taller than I ever had in her presence. No more loans. No more sacrifices. No more putting him first while he tramples me. He needs to learn, really learn, what it costs to disrespect the person who built his world. My mother's lip trembled. You're being cruel. I took a breath, calm and unmovable.
No, Mom.
I'm being fair. For a moment, the old woman I loved flickered behind her eyes, like she almost understood. Almost. Then she stepped back, defeated. You'll regret this, she warned. I met her gaze. Steel in my heart.
No.
I'll finally sleep. Ethan buried his face again, sobbing like a child, while the rest of the family scattered to their corners, too shocked to keep fighting. The late afternoon light cut through the kitchen window, falling on the empty birthday banner, like a stage curtain dropping on a bad play. And that's when I heard him whisper my name from behind the door. That final voice was Ethan's, ragged, defeated, stripped of every ounce of swagger he'd had at the party. He stood shakily, wiping his tear-streaked face with the back of his trembling hand. Mom, he choked out, voice breaking. I'm sorry. The words were so small, they almost didn't fit inside him. I felt a twist in my chest, old instincts urging me to gather him up, to fix it all, to shelter him from his own mistakes. But I stood still, steady as stone. Sorry, I repeated, tasting it. You mean that? He nodded, eyes red. I was stupid. I was showing off. I didn't think. I swallowed, voice shaking but clear. That's right. You didn't think about who loved you enough to make those college payments, who co-signed the car, who stayed when everyone else left. He dropped his head, shoulders sagging. I didn't see it. I see it now. A tear slipped down my cheek before I could catch it. I hope you do, I whispered, because you'll have to live with what you said and what it cost you. He stepped forward, hands out like a drowning man. Can I fix it? I sighed, every word tearing me in two. One day, but not today. Today you learn. He felt his knees again, sobbing so hard it hurt to watch. His father looked away, shame etched deep into his features. The stepmother tried to put a hand on Ethan's back, but he shrugged it off, lost in his own regret. I walked to the doorway, my breath steady, heart heavy, but somehow light at the same time. Mom, Ethan called one last time, voice so small it almost disappeared. Will you still love me? I turned, tears streaming freely now. Always, I said, steady as a mountain. But loving you doesn't mean shielding you. The house felt quiet for the first time in years, like it had finally exhaled. I stepped outside, the cool morning air brushing against my skin, carrying away years of silent heartbreak with it. My phone buzzed again. The family, the neighbors, more endless questions, but I let it ring, slipping it into my pocket, refusing to pick up. This was my moment, my boundary, my freedom. And that's when I heard him whisper my name from behind the door.